Okay, it looks like we are streaming right now. Hi, everybody. And so, we are going to be painting the eyeballs on all three of the Elassomorphs so far. So, I think what we'll do is just dive in with the one that's least far forward. I'm going to go into the corner of the eye. There. And pick up that abnormal reddish. And then see if I can get under the eyelid there. Okay, it has a kind of transparency about it. I'm going back with a thicker application there. Now, not so much a problem when the underpainting is white or light. But under this area here, which is blue, that is dulling the effect a little, but not so much that I'm bothered. Now, I'm using a little bit of just water to move that pigment around and soften the effect. And then I'm going to try and bring it onto the pupil. Onto the cornea on both sides. A very faint stain. Okay. And now with this kind of skin tone, which is closer to realism. I'm positioning the upper eyelid. Correcting the drawing somewhat. Just there. And same again on the other side. A little bit more water to help it float. There. And I've just noticed for the first time that this eyeball is lacking the horrendous stainless steel eyelashes of the larger painting. But that's okay. That's fine. I can bring in a little bit more of the redder material. And in this section here, soften that down a little bit. And try and cover a little bit of the cerulean blue drawing. That's okay. We do need to reinstate a little juicy bit of red in there, even more so. Okay. Just a little touch there. Yes, my intention is to make the eyeball a little bit painful to look at. A little bit more red than it should be. And that's okay. That's reasonable. I'll go in with some white. I can make the apex of the eyeball just a tad lighter. Okay. And maybe use that here in the cornea as well. And then this one. Okay. That's enough. Similarly here, a fairly red bias to the eyeball. And then into this eyelash area. I think the red-orange bias in the colour is accentuated by the blue. I'll make that a little bit more. A little bit more thicker. Okay, we'll try some lifting out. Some thinning. And Perhaps a little bit of lifting out. Okay. I left the paint out overnight to thicken up a little, oxidize a little. And now I'm just reworking it fractionally. But I'm finding that it's flowing the way I want it to. Over there, there's the highlight area, which we tried to reintroduce on the earlier one. A bit of variety in there. And same again on this side. And just rotate the hairs of the brush in the paint to re-establish a fine point. There it is. The underpainting in blue is being obscured by the paint mix. So I do like the opacity of oil paint. And there's the area where my lightest value should be placed. So go in. Okay, I'm not seeing much separation from the base color to the lighter application. So I may have to come in at a later date and tidy that up. One color. Just kind of plummy red. Okay. It's adequate for what it is. And last of all, the large painting. And here it is. Okay, so I'm in a flow now Same idea as before. In with the strong, more reddish colour. For the corner of the eye. And the lower eyelid. I may have to change the direction. Hopefully you can still see. Now by doing this, I get to correct that line. Change the drawing just a little to please my own aesthetic preferences. I want to try and embed that into the flesh a little bit more than it was. And that's okay. Again with this plummy red, I want to borrow a little bit from the white area. So coming in here. Borrow a little bit there to create more of a point. Okay, let's mix up more. I'm loading up the brush. Now I want to go to the inside of the eyelid slightly and borrow from there. But be careful not to rob too much of that moon. That's probably enough. And then return to the outside of that line. And appear to widen it. The board is playing up a little bit. There are some areas where the paint just doesn't want to respond. So, and I've found it with the canvas boards that they do sometimes have little stubborn patches. Okay, that's it for the red. And now my lighter colour, my lighter value, has a greater mix of titanium white in it, so it should have increased opacity. And I am kind of hoping that once this is applied, the separation between the eyeball and the paint palette behind is more evident. The drawing is eerily wrong in that the eyelashes seem to be coming from the top of the eyelid as opposed to the plummy area that I outlined. But since this originated from my unconscious mind, I'm going to respect it, not change it, and also try to consider, well, perhaps, the unconscious mind is trying to say something about that, or nothing at all. So maybe there is some meaning in it. But certainly as I look at the painting and I try to understand it, I wonder if there is a kind of eco message there, which is not part of any kind of conscious decision making on my part. But maybe the state of the world is something painful to look at, which it is. And then certainly in environmental issues, there is lots that is difficult to see, difficult to watch. So perhaps these concerns that I do have as someone who cares for the environment have crept into this image somewhat. Or it's just a painting. Yeah, for me, paintings don't necessarily need to have a meaning. They can just be enjoyed as collections of pigments and tones. Well, I'm quite impressed the way that pink has just knocked back that black, and there's no trace of it. So admittedly, this kind of skin colour has been made up of mixes with titanium white, which is famously opaque. I would have to consult the books to see if yellow ochre is also opaque. I've corrected the drawing there, so I have to continue to correct it here. But I do like the way that we can layer on top. And obscure the layer below. That line there needs correct just a little. I'll have to see how this addition reads at a distance. So what I do after the session is I prop it up on a surface and take a lot of time just looking at it, thinking about it. Just refer back to it and see how it works. And then judge what the next step should be. Okay. I am reasonably happy with that. I'll put a juicy highlight line on the inside. Yep. And well, that's probably it. I'll introduce probably these reds and pinks into these flower forms here going up the fingerboard of the guitar, and then I can decide whether I'm going to darken or lighten from then on. So that's a short episode, short installment today. I'm still recovering from yesterday's exertions, and so I think that's progress, enough progress for one day. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully